I hear you asking that we do that again and soon, and that you really try to be able to find a way to hold these agencies responsible. And so I am going to ask the agencies who, for this meeting, have sat in the audience, to next time, and we'll hold one soon, be up here, to give each of you enough time to be able to press them. I mean, the only way democracy works is if there's sunlight. And we have to have them be able to not only answer your questions, but take responsibility for the stuff they're doing that's hurting you.
Some questions are unanswerable.
But then don't answer the unanswerables, but the answerable ones they should answer.
Right.
Okay.
So we hear you. Okay?
Thank you very much. We share your frustration, the amount of energy and effort and challenge and obstacles to being able to just be here tonight.
And to your patience.
Our patience has been tested in ways, sir.
You don't have the slightest idea
We are on
what it took to
your
get this
side.
meeting.
Okay. This is a question I think, Mary, maybe for you, from Daniel McGrath. I'm wondering the depth the sodium gamma detector was able to penetrate underneath the soil surface.
That's a really good question, and what we determined was approximately 6 to 13 inches below the surface.
Can't hear.
6 to 13 inches.
And it's approximate, it depends on the soil and
Half a foot to a foot.
Okay.
But part of what we did, just real quick, was we did do these borings, and wherever we did the borings, we put a sodium iodide detector down the boring. So every boring where we took a soil sample, we actually did sodium iodide detection all the way down the borings. Didn't find too much in the regular soil samples, but in the areas where there was buildings and structures, we did find a few anomalies. And all of that's in our report.
Okay, thank you. From Aileen Matthews, why have no studies been done to determine how many increased incidence of cancers may have occurred in the San Fernando Valley, Simi, Los Angeles?
Well, there have been. The study done for the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry looked for a 10-mile radius comparing 2 miles to 10 miles. The LA, or I guess the State Cancer Registry years ago, had looked at the Los Angeles County census tracts close to the facility and found an elevated level of urinary bladder cancers. So there have been some studies, but I have to basically tell you that it's really hard to do studies of the non-worker population. Workers wear radiation badges. So an epidemiologist can compare the health outcome for someone who had high dose to low dose. All of you in the public, you don't wear radiation badges. So the best that ATSDR was able to do was to use distance from the site as a surrogate for exposure. So there have been some studies. We posted Dr. Morgenstern's work on the website. We can, if you want, post the bladder study as well.
Okay. Next question is for NASA. This is from Supervisor Linda Parks. I don't know that she's here anymore. She says, why is NASA trying to sell its property at the SSFL before it is cleaned up? And if it's sold to the Santa Ynez Chumash, will the tribe be required to clean it up to state and federal standards? A question from a county supervisor.
Okay. And I'm not sure I can answer all of that. Some of that's above my pay grade, and I'm not aware of it. But I can say that NASA isn't selling. The property's been excessed, right? Declared excess, and GSA will take receipt of it after we've cleaned it up. After there, the disposition of the property is GSA, and I can't speak to what GSA does. That would be Jim Biederman.
Just to clarify, it's not really quite my understanding. GSA says it's trying to transfer the land now, and has repeatedly said it wants to do that before cleanup is complete, and that's what's caused Supervisor Parks to get resolutions to the Ventura County Board of Supervisors, the LA County Board of Supervisors as well. And obviously people are somewhat concerned given the fact that Chumash have a casino north of Santa Barbara, and this would be extraordinarily valuable land for a casino in the LA area. But no, GSA's position in writing on its website is that it is trying to sell that land now, and that it believes it has the authority to sell it before cleanup is conducted or completed.
And I believe that NASA is still responsible for that cleanup, even if that land transfers.
The issue is a tribe can claim sovereignty and being exempt from all of that. That's the concern that the county legislators have expressed.
And again,
it's above your pay grade.
not above my pay grade, but out of my visibility.
Okay.
Okay, Dan, this may be one for you, maybe for John, I don't know. How much ID-131 was released from the SRE reactor accident in 1959? Any thyroid uptake by members of the public?
Nobody knows. The radiation monitors went off scale. That means that it was so much radiation that the device couldn't read it. We don't even know if iodine got out at all. It could have been captured by the sodium or plated out on the cold surfaces of the pipes, but it could also have had a substantial amount. In a reactor accident, iodine becomes like a gas. And as I showed you from the drawing, it can go into that core cover gas and then be pumped out. Some experts have estimated that the upper number could be as high, as I indicated in that film, of about 240 times what got out of 3 Mile Island. But 3 Mile Island is a very small number. The official number is 15 curies. So you could still have had thousands of curies, which would be something of a big deal. Iodine tends to concentrate in the thyroid gland and can cause thyroid cancer. So half a century plus since it occurred, no one has the slightest idea how much got out. It was one of the bad things. We didn't have monitors set up around it because no one assumed you could actually have that kind of an accident. And we had it and we didn't.
Well, we didn't know.
So we don't know. Well, good news, iodine-131 has an 8-day half-life. It's dangerous for about half a year. You don't have to worry about iodine-31 today. Bad news is if you were around at that time and you got some iodine into your thyroid gland, you can get the cancer decades later even though there's no iodine left in it.
Okay, Dan, perhaps this is one for you, but I don't know if anyone can probably answer this. Do they still plan to open glow-in-the-dark park, as I've named it, for the SSFL site?
Let me explain what's behind the question. The Boeing company, as I mentioned, has sued to block the cleanup law, and it refused to sign the agreement that NASA and DOE did sign. It has argued it would like to declare the land uninhabitable forever and restrict it to day hikes and picnics, make it into a park. The reasoning behind that, and we would love to see it as a park once it's cleaned up. I think huge numbers of people would agree with that. But the reason Boeing wants to declare it a park is that if you can argue that people are only on the property for a few hours a year for a hike, let's say 8 hours a year, there's 8,760 hours in a year. That means you can leave 1,000 times more contamination. And that's what their motive, because they would save a lot of money. It doesn't do any good for the people who live nearby. They're still living in homes. So there is still pressure to have them exempted from the cleanup requirements and leave vastly larger amounts. I've done some calculations about it, and none of the radioactivity will be cleaned up at all. And NASA itself estimated about 90% of the contamination in their land would not be cleaned up if they could use the park land, the cleanup standard.
And it doesn't do anything to water out.
That's the point. The site leaks. So if you don't clean up the source, the leakage continues.
What is the ground? Is the rock sandstone? Is it a
Fractured bedrock, yeah. And that's the problem. It's very hard to clean up and very hard to model because it moves through the fractures. Look, one last comment from me. You do not know what we had to do to get this work group back. You really don't know. And there's been a huge amount of effort to not have it happen. we did it for you so that you could have a chance to hear these things, but we also for us to hear from you what you want. And I'm hearing that you want a chance to try to hold the agencies accountable. And so we'll be asking them the next time to be here, up here, and to have you have a substantial chance to try to push them on those things we want to. You pay their salaries. So thank you all.
Thank you all very much. We're going to need to move out. We will have conversations. To the agencies, I want to thank you very much for being here. It's important. The community is larger than just the people who go to technical meetings.
Thank you.
The community is large.